and as such, your attempts at a fair fight would place you in a tight spot. I was told to give you this, at the 11th hour. That was her message. Susato's parting gift. I wonder what's inside. What? It's the cat flap thing. This is... Look, I made this. Oh. Yeah, it's a cat flap maker. Meow. Here, take a look at this. This is my new invention. What is it? I call it the cat flap maker. It's my invention that creates instant doors for little kitties. How does this help? Why did Susie want to bring this up now? Miss Susato said something to me after that, actually. She said that she was a failure of a legal assistant. Huh? I remember. Susato, I really do think you're the world's best legal assistant. I could never hope to hear higher praise than that. But I'm sure I'm a failure of a legal assistant. Mr. Holmes, why would she say that? That night, when you left the shop in pursuit of those robbers, Miss Susato used this to carry out a certain plan of hers. That's your answer, Master Naruhodo. What does that even mean? Susato used this on the night of the crime. She created the peephole? That can't be right, because we used it to see the crime. I'm confused. Small contraption that can make tiny little cat flaps in any room. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, how does that work? She did! Oh god. Did! She did make the... Oh, okay, we must... Wait, no, the peephole looks like it's there. Unless I'm crazy. Yeah, it looks like it's there. Unless I am going crazy, it's hard to see. Certainly looks like there's something there. Maybe, I don't bloody know. Huh, okay, that makes 5 minutes. We're out of time. That's all I could think, is that she made it while we ran after those two. Because I'm pretty sure the way it worked was we got attacked, ran after the robbers, then we went back and looked through the peephole. That's when the cutscene kicked in, I think. I do appreciate your time, dear Reaper. I've no need for your appreciation, detective. But it matters not. You're already far too late. Oh? Now what makes you say that? The jury's opinion is unanimous. A closing argument is possible, but... I'm sure changing their mind at this point is not. I wonder about that. Master Naruhodo. It's time for a great turnabout. Sir, it all falls to you now. What will you do in the face of this crisis? It all falls onto me now. One misstep here and the trial is over. My lord, the defense wishes to... Closing argument, cross-examine the witness, wait and see what happens. Really? Yeah, cross-examine. Testify again. I want to cross-examine the witness. The jurors have already arrived at a verdict. You cannot ask for a new cross-examination now. I'm not asking for a new cross-examination. We were in the middle of one already. What's this? How forgetful you are today, dear Reaper. My lord. Yeah, you'll have to suspend it. Oh, that was Sherlock. I request that you temporarily suspend this cross-examination. Very well. The court will temporarily suspend this cross-examination. Do you object, defense? No, my lord. I have no objections. Nah. In other words, nobody else has any say in the matter right now. If Rio says he wants to continue his cross-examination, the court has no choice but to resume said cross-examination. Ridiculous. And what comes to light might change the juror's mind. It more than likely will. This is the court's view on the matter. The defence's request is certainly justified, however, when a trial has continued for this long, it is the court that decides the timing of the ruling. For that reason, I will give the defense a single chance. Oh. You may present a single piece of evidence against a single statement contained in the witness's current testimony. A single piece of evidence? Should you make no progress, the court is prepared to announce its verdict. Do you have any objections? As you wish, my lord. Sir. A single piece of evidence against a single statement. That is more than enough. Now then, Master Naruhodo, it's about time for me to keel over. The rest is up to you. Oh my god, the way he fell over. Also, I don't usually do this, but I'm kind of scared that I'll fuck up and make the wrong choice. And it's been an hour since I last saved. Yeah. Okay, it's been nearly an hour and 20 minutes. It has been an hour and 20 minutes. Crap. I've nearly been going for 5 hours. Whew! What a doozy. Mr. Holmes! He'll be fine. He only collapsed. Don't worry about it. Right, one piece of evidence against one statement. It's gonna be the cat flap. Such a high fever, and yet he still stood here as if he were as healthy as ever. I can't tell if it's his fortitude or his absurdity that makes him so terrifying. He's most likely resting in peace in the waiting room right about now. I'm glad Mr. Holmes isn't here to hear all this. Now, defense, are you ready? I'm ready. Slap your face. Do it. Yes, my lord. One piece of evidence to use on one piece of testimony. Iris, Mr. Holmes. Double slap. Ah. And Susato too. They all gave me this one last chance. This will decide how this trial ends. Defense, resume your cross-examination. Okay, so... what I witnessed, reprise. Ah, the music! When those two idiots were fighting with the pawnbroker, I was by the entrance. When Nemi was shoved aside, I suddenly felt this pain in my arm. I pursued the shopkeeper and peered into the small peephole in the storeroom door. It's gotta be here. I'm going on the assumption that Susato is the one that made it. Yeah, that Susato is the one that made the hole in the door. And if that is the case, then that's where it's used. Fingers crossed. Music stopped, so that's a good sign. What is this strange little contraption? It's a device that can create an entrance for kitty cats in a snap. Whatever the kind of door, it'll carve out another little door just for them. It basically creates a second, smaller door inside an existing door. It means cats can get in and out without having to wait for a human to open the door for them. Do you think I'm daft? What kind of idiot couldn't guess that? But a toy like this has no relation whatsoever to a murder trial. You sure about that? After all, it's not as if there was a cat flap anywhere on that door. What about the peephole? It does make sense, like why would there be a peephole on a storeroom door? I don't have a cat at home, so I can't quite say I understand. Then let me word it a little differently. This device can create a peephole in an instant. What? A peephole? 2 nights ago, we went to the pawnbrokers right after the incident had occurred. According to the report, you were accompanied by Mr. Holmes and your legal assistant, correct? Precisely. Then, my legal assistant used this at the scene. What in blazes? If you remember, there was a peephole in that door. In fact, I actually looked into the storeroom through the peephole myself. Don't be ridiculous. What are you trying to get at? That peephole was in the door from the very beginning. I witnessed the crime through that peephole after all. No, I think you're just lying. Is that really true? What? What do you mean by that, defense? It's time for me to go all out. Here's what I'm trying to get at. Until my legal assistant had created that peephole, there was no way to see into the storeroom through that door. What? What? That's absurd. You can't possibly be implying. My legal assistant made the peephole when she used this device. She tampered with the crime scene, despite her status as a legal assistant. That is an act of vandalism worthy of a hefty punishment. My deepest apologies. It most likely happened in the few minutes while I was looking for a police officer. But, if that really is the case, Mr. Kroger's earlier testimony is a complete lie, contains a glaring contradiction. A contradiction? Exactly what kind of contradiction? Mr. Kroger's so-called decisive eyewitness testimony was all seen through the storeroom door's peephole, according to him. But, however, at the time of the murder, there was no peephole. There was still no peephole in that door, and if we keep that in mind, it was absolutely impossible for you to have witnessed the crime from the outside. That can only mean one thing. Your whole testimony is nothing but lies. What did you say? Mm-hmm. Oh my. Order, order, order. What on earth is the meaning of this? That claim of yours will not suffice. I'm sure even you are aware of that. Exactly. Do you really think such a childish claim would pass in court? What part of this seems so childish to you? Simple. Are you really saying that that toy can just make a door effortlessly? Yep, it boasts enough power to carve out any door in an instant, no matter what it's made of. What utter rubbish. There's no way it could do something like that. I thought you might say that. Huh? Wagga hi. Come here, sweetie. Time for din-dins. Wait. Oh my god. She made a hole in the courtroom. You see? Oh. Now listen here, you can't just use the Crown Court's doors to make cat flaps. That isn't the only issue though, there's still more. Was that peephole really made with that toy or not? You have no way to prove it. What are you saying? That's easy peasy. What? This device always makes cat flaps with the same predetermined dimensions. It should match up perfectly with the peephole at the scene. That frilly man shut right up, didn't he? Nice work, Iris. You're a lifesaver. Perhaps it's time for you to shut right up now, exchange student. Your legal assistant has already returned to your Far Eastern island, am I wrong? Well, she's on her way there. You aren't, no. In that case, your claim is lacking one very important thing. Proof. Even if that peephole's dimensions matched up perfectly with that device, when exactly was it made? The prosecution demands evidence. What do you mean, Lord Van Zeeks? This is rather simple. Was the peephole made with that toy before or after the incident? The aforementioned legal assistant has already left, and any testimony or proof along with her. When was that peephole created at the crime scene? While there is no proof of the answer, your words are simply baseless conjecture. What? No, not again! He is certainly right. Defense, how do you respond? Aye. You can't turn back now, Ryu. All we can do now is carve our own door. and force it wide open. In all honesty, I'm not confident I can do this, but there is one thing I know for certain. Susato is the greatest legal assistant in the world. Okay. I don't know if the game just saved. The court requests evidence, defense. Show us proof that the storeroom door's peephole was created after the crime. So if we use this, let me just double check. It doesn't look like there's one on the door, but at the same time it does look like there is one on the door. I think that's just the wood. So, created after the crime. Boom. Take that. This would seem to be from that camera your foolish detective set up. My legal assistant Susato Mikotaba really is extraordinary. That's why, no matter the situation, she was always thinking about the evidence we would need. And that evidence is this picture. This was taken when the defendant broke into the pawn shop. There isn't a peephole, you can clearly see. Indeed. It captures the moment the heinous defendant mercilessly threatened the defenseless victim. That part's not important. Look at the door. Look at the door behind them. Show it to me again, please. This is... my word, the storeroom door. There's no people in it. Mr. Kroger? At the time, you were unable to view the crime through the peephole, because that peephole was yet to be created. In other words, your testimony is nothing but a storeroom of lies. Ooh. Damn you! Order, order, order! It seems the defense has perfectly proven its claim. This witness has told an entirely false testimony. Quite so, he has done a splendid job of proving as such. Just as he has done a splendid job of proving his legal assistant's unforgivable sin of forgery. However, that is all there is to it. What do you mean, Lord Van Zeeks? Even if this man has committed the egregious crime of perjury, we still cannot call him a murderer. Quite right. What? It's true. I was at the crime scene then. And then I was shot in the arm. That is all. Yes, in fact, you should consider me a victim. Oh my god, really? They just don't give up. A victim? Seriously? But right now, there's no evidence that decisively proves that he's a murderer. But you know, I think it's already too late for him. Iris? After all, once a door has been opened, there's no turning back for anyone. Right, Ryu? Holmesy always says one thing. Or this one thing. Lies always beget more lies. See through one, and their whole story falls apart. Or was that something that I wrote? She doesn't even know. No, Iris, you're absolutely right. Mr. Kroger, you've done more than just commit perjury. After all, those lines were impossible from the start. They were impossible? Just what do you mean? Within your lies, you've revealed something that you shouldn't have known. Therefore, there is a fundamental contradiction within your words. Oh! The gun. I completely forgot about it. What? Yeah, the bullet that took his life. The bullet that took Hatch's life. How very amusing, attorney. Let's hear it then. Tell us more about this so-called contradiction. It's just like Iris said. See through one lie and their whole story falls apart. Mr. Kroger wasn't supposed to know about a certain something. The great contradiction caused by this is... Wait. The people. The important thing here isn't that he told a lie. It's why he was able to tell that lie. I'm afraid I failed to understand. In that case, let me ask you just one thing. Mr. Kroger, how did you know? How did you know that the peephole on the door even existed? Really? That should be obvious. Oh. Oh no. Yeah, because it was there when it was created. Whatever is the matter? Why the sudden silence? That peephole was created after the crime. After I let those two robbers slip away, I returned to the shop. Scotland Yard arrived almost immediately after, and ever since then, that pawn shop has been under investigation by the police. I believe I'm not mistaken, Inspector Gregson. No, you are absolutely correct. The pawn shop was stuffed full of those pledges in order to make it through all of them, or through them all, with scheduled shifts such that an officer was always present. So naturally, Mr. Kroger wouldn't have been able to enter the crime scene. Thus, you shouldn't have known about the existence of that peephole. It should have been absolutely impossible for you to testify about it. Not the gun. However, there is no denying that he testified about it. He stated that he witnessed the crime through it. Just how can that be possible? I beg your pardon. May I ask you something, Lord Van Zeeks? What do you want, Inspector Gregson? It's about time I give my report to the Yard. I have nothing else I am able to testify about, so if you'll excuse me, hang on. You have not been given permission to leave the stand, Inspector Gregson. What? I am telling you that you are not to be excused, Inspector. Until this trial is over, you will not step away from the witness stand. Understood. Mr. Kroger? You shouldn't have been able to know about that peephole. Which means, you must have heard that information from someone else. I wonder if it was what they were on about earlier. Attorney, that claim of yours has a very significant, deeper meaning. I'm aware. The defense believes Mr. Kroger was able to claim that he witnessed the scene of the crime because he received information about it from some third party. And, if I consider every clue we've been given until now, it can be no one other than... Gregson. I bet it was earlier in the trial too. Who in the blazes was this person? Who would have given the witness information that he could use to give false testimony? How could you? It was you, Inspector Gregson, wasn't it? But me? On what grounds do you make this frivolous claim? Earlier, in this incident, we've only known the name Rupert Kroger for a few hours. After all, it only came to light during the trial. There was an hour-long recess while we hastily prepared for another testimony. A bailiff went to the city's telegraph office and summoned this witness. Before then, there's no way Mr. Kroger could have imagined that he would be brought to the witness stand before us. Which means that at that point, he shouldn't have. Right, I think it's safe to assume that he didn't know about the peephole. And then, when he took the stand, he learned that he was accused of being the third intruder. And that's when he was given information about the crime scene. All in order to give self-serving false testimony. Exactly. And at the time, only one person involved in the investigation was available to him. That was Inspector Gregson. What on earth? Who do you think... Why do you think I would leak information to this man? Besides, I was in the judge's chambers during the whole recess. Yeah, you did it during a testimony. Quite so, he was briefing me on the events that occurred in the pawn shop. Ergo, the first time these two met face to face was when the trial restarted, and that's when they gave the information to each other. It is inconceivable that they could have had a conversation while at the stand. Oh, but they did. Oh hey, I just remembered something. What is it, Iris? Earlier. Jean Bean testified up there, yeah? Yeah, I remember. In order to collect McGundle's music box, an officer went to the crime scene. Oh, right, during that testimony. Flashback. They were having a conversation. Something caught my attention. Kroger and Inspector Gregson were talking about something. It was very possible for Inspector Gregson to have been passing information at that time. Ridiculous. I will not stand for your lies. Why would I, a proud Inspector of Scotland Yard, have any reason to do this? There was no need for me to leak information, to leak important classified information to someone like him. True, there would be no reason for you to just freely give up information for nothing. But what if you had actually struck some kind of deal? Doesn't that make a little more sense? A deal, you say? It's simple. In return for information about the peephole, Mr. Crogray gave something to the Inspector in return. An Inspector of the Yard made a secret deal with the witness. If that's really true, it would be an inexcusable breach of trust. But well... typical. I suppose you Japanese are predisposed to accusing others of things they didn't do. What? No, we most definitely are not. You've tread too far down the path to hell now, Japanese boy. The Reaper will not grant you passage with mere baseless claims. Pay the fare with evidence. Evidence? What did this inspector stand to gain from a secret deal? Present proof of this deal that they struck. If Inspector Gregson really made a deal with Kroger, then there's only one thing I can think of that he would ask for in return. Ryu, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Yeah. This is what will finally tie everything together. The court orders the defense to present evidence. What evidence shows what the inspector received in return for information? It was the other disc. Is he the spy? No, he can't be. Inspector Gregson? You're pursuing another important incident alongside this one, aren't you? What's with this all of a sudden? Let's talk about the secret pursuit a bit more. Would it be related to the incident that this newspaper is reporting? Classified information from the British Empire's telegrams have been leaked to enemy nations. And just why do you... A short while ago, the music box that McGundle had pledged 2 months ago was discovered. It's a rather unique music box made to play 2 discs at once. And it is possible that this secret information has been engraved on these 2 discs. So in order to obtain the second disc in absolute secrecy, you made a deal with Mr. Crogray and exchanged information on this case for the disc. No more. Woohoo! Order, order, order. On the day the crime occurred, you said this when I met you at the pawn shop. Scotland Yard will be taking Cosney McGundle's possessions. Hand it over. Don't you hand it, Naruto. That's mine. Sorry, little girl. We have to take all of McGundle's belongings as evidence. The police already knew it at the time, didn't they? McGundle was connected to that theft of information. The duty given to me was to covertly retrieve the information stolen from the government's telegrams. It was high-profile, top-secret government information, so I couldn't let anyone know. And that is why, when I moved to present this as evidence, you strongly opposed my doing so. You knew that sensitive information was inscribed on this disk. No, well, I didn't have any concrete proof, but I had at least considered the possibility that it held that information. Then, I don't believe it. In order to get that second disk, you gave the witness confidential information about the investigation. You aided him in giving false testimony. The fact that Mr. Crogray knew about the existence of the peephole can only be explained if they had struck some kind of deal. You damned filth.